Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Leven podcasts. I am here, my name is Leven, you know this already, but I'm joined once again by a beautiful young lady. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to be back.
I was gonna say we should keep you anonymous as a joke, but I'm pretty sure I've said your name in the last podcast anyway. So people know your name's Ria anyway, so I guess I'll just stop calling you this mysterious beautiful young lady and I'll call you Ria. We're back with Ria. Hi.
You just gave away my identity.
I'm pretty sure I gave it away already in the last one, but that's not what's important. We're here to talk about Fortnite. FNCS was today. Obviously, you got to be on the analyst test again, which was sick. Shout out to Resub, shout out to Zeke, cool stuff. But let's get into the games. Let's get into the questions, Ria.
So, it's been an interesting day of Fortnite. What did you make of today's action?
It was interesting, right? Because coming into this week, based off of last week where we saw people sort of griefing, some trolling here and there, we weren't necessarily too sure whether we were going to have the creme de la creme of Fortnite, right? We weren't necessarily too sure whether people would take the games more seriously. I'm pretty sure Alpa came out, one of the statistical people. Alpa actually is somebody who helps me with my YouTube videos, right? He came out, and I think he said that the games were actually less stacked in terms of numbers, which was weird because in terms of as an analyst, right, the games did feel a lot better in terms of the quality. There was still obviously some grief and some players who weren't necessarily taking things too seriously. I'm just going to avoid talking about those people because, with a lot of those trios, I'm relatively good friends with them and I understand their reasons, so I'm not trying to bash them or anything, but the reality is it does make my job as an analyst a bit more difficult, right? So even though I wasn't too sure what we'd get out of today, I will say I was quite impressed. I think storyline wise, there were a lot of things that were fulfilling in terms of the stories, which we'll get into, right? In terms of the actual level of play, I think we saw a high level of play, especially towards the end game. I think you are always going to get good end games. Even last week, the end games are relatively good. And so I was quite chuffed with how the games played out. I think next week will be even more interesting. Like I said, the storylines were paid off, or some of them paid off, some of them were, still the seeds are still being planted for the coming weeks. But ultimately, I was super happy with how things panned out.
So, Misty Meadows is clearly the talk of the town with two teams qualifying out of that spot. Did you expect this?
It's interesting you asked this, right? I think for some, probably yes. Just because, right? We've been memeing the whole season about how the Frenchie's got something weird going on at Misty. Nobody can land at Misty unless you are one of the elite French players. Otherwise, you will just be bullied. There's jokes about potential teaming and whatnot. And obviously, based off today's games, nothing like that seems to be going on. I think the best part about it for these guys is the fact that they're able to loot Misty, not have to worry about dying off spawn. In the first game, I believe Sky, Falconly, and Robabs disengaged instantly, right? They just insta left Misty, which was interesting in itself, right? I think it was good to see these guys qualify because ultimately, when it comes to looking at this lobby, these were some of the two French teams out of Misty are two of the most experienced trios in the lobby, right? Obviously, when you have, like I said, Sky, Falconly, Robabs, you have Clement, Nakos, and Floki. My mind slips me. You have two of the better trios in the lobby, both coming out of Misty. I think ultimately, it will be something that should be highlighted. I think we're seeing that Misty's clearly one of the stronger POIs to drop, right? I think Scented and Edgy and them land there in NA. And so we're seeing the Frenchies do well with it in EU. I'll say I'm super happy, right? Because I'm a fan of the teams that have made it out of there. The fact that these guys are able to do this though is, I guess it's just how the game's played out, right? We've seen this in the past with other POIs, with other teams, right? Infamously in solo FNCS. Or was it solo FNCS or solo invitational? The one where Janice won. Whichever one Janice won. I think it's solo invitational. Yeah, when Janice won solo invitational, you had everyone saying, you're splitting it with Tayson. And then when Tayson won, well, not Tayson. You guys know what I'm saying. My mind is blanking right now, but you guys know what I'm saying. We've seen this before. That's what that matters. We've seen this before. So it's no surprise anymore. these are two teams I do expect to do well, and are two teams I expect to see in the grand finals as well, especially with Clement, right? Clement, Floki, and Nichols. Those guys are insane on low ground. They put on a show. And Falcone's trio with Sky and that, they kept taking height a bunch, which was and their height ticks were really good. Their height ticks were really good. So yeah, two trios I'm definitely excited to see, and I think a lot of people probably could have expected to see those two teams be successful out of Misty today.
So, I saw on your Twitter you were excited about Benjy, Matso, and Amplify. Can you describe a bit of their performance for us?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of those guys. I'm a huge fan of Benjy. I'm a huge fan of Matso and Amplify. I'm happy to see Matso and Amplify finally starting to get the attention they deserve. These guys are some of the premier players we have in Europe. I think a lot of people probably wouldn't put them in that elite tier, but I think they are somewhat deserving of that. I think when you look at what they've achieved over the past year, the success they've had with ADN, I think Zate even put them when Zate retired for a bit and he was doing all his viewing party stuff. He put them on a pedestal as well, right? Trying to show them attention. And now when you're playing with Benjy, arguably the biggest player in the EU at the moment, you obviously are going to get the attention you deserve from that. And so these guys are just amazing. What, 1 week, less than a week of playing with each other at the time I'm recording this, and qualifying, coming second in the qualifier week. Super impressive stuff. That's exactly what you expect to see Benjyfishy, right? A name hit that big, you don't want to see Benjyfishy not making it to round 4. That's not what you expect out of him at all. So really impressed. This is what I wanted to see. If you've been paying attention to my streams, if you've been watching my streams, this is exactly what I said I wanted to see from a while now, right? Like I said, I want to see Benjy in a trio where he's not the IGL. He doesn't have to worry about the IGL and responsibilities in that sense. He does still call, right? If you listen to their comms, if you watch these guys, he does still make some decisions, which he should, right? Every trio has that, where different people make different decisions or put in their input at certain given times. But ultimately, right, he doesn't have that weight on his shoulders of having to carry the team in the sense of, understanding and focusing on all the small, minute things they have to do as a trio. Amplify and Matso can do that as well, and it allows Benjy to just sort of be in this sort of fragger role, right, where he can just have that freedom and be let loose, and we're seeing him look like his absolute best. The stuff he was doing with an RPG today, bloody hell, like, it was just absurd. Like, some of the harpoon RPG plays he was whipping out were just absolute filth. I predicted him I thought they were going to win today. I thought they were going to win. They came second, which isn't bad, right? That's close. But I did predict them to win because I just felt so confident with them in with their form in the previous rounds, plus RPG. We saw what the RPG team did last week with Kaizen, Lyzen, and Wyzip. So that's now, in 2 weeks, the RPG team has come top 3 twice, right? Which is interesting to say the least. So wasn't surprised by any means. I'm super impressed. I was speaking to Benjyfishy yesterday, right? Little flex there. Shout out to Benjyfishy, best mum in the Fortnite community. And she said she was really excited, right? She said she admitted, like, honestly, she didn't know much about Amplify and Matso, but if you were like her and you didn't know much about them, you will very soon, because these guys are insane and they're gonna do well. They will do well. I think they've got a lot to work on. I don't think they're the finished product yet, but you have 3 guys who are all willing to work hard, willing to improve, willing to grind to get to where they need to be as a trio. And as much as people are going to give Benjy his plaudits, right, and congratulate him and praise him, Matso is honestly one of the best players in EU, one of the most criminally underrated players in EU. He is insane. And so I'm really excited about these guys. I know we like to do this thing where we abbreviate teams' names, but please, we are not calling these guys bum. I'm not going to refer to this trio. I'm not going to refer to this trio as bum, okay? So call them UMB, call them BMU. We're not calling them bum. Thank you. Good night.
Damn, so they're ones to watch right now, I guess.
Yeah, 100% ones to watch. And everyone's watching, right? Benjy had like 50,000 viewers on his own on Twitch, right? So definitely ones to watch right now.
So you said on the broadcast it was a good day for the CIS region and France. Do you think these are the 2 best regions in Europe?
it's an interesting question. I think everybody is always sort of trying to stay on top of, yo, like who's the best in the EU right now? Like what's the best nation? I think the current argument has sort of been between France and Germany. Like the Germans, or we should say French speaking and German speaking, right? Because some of the French people, quote unquote, that you'd include aren't actually French, like they're from Switzerland and whatnot, or Belgium or something like that, right? And like some of the German speakings aren't actually from Germany, they're from Austria and crap like that, right? But in terms of CIS, yeah, they are an interesting bunch. I think obviously there are always the accusations of, you know, the Russians are cheating and this and that. And, you know, I like to make jokes about it as well because I like to let the jokes fly, you know. You gotta be easy. You can't always be serious at all times. You gotta let the jokes fly, pardon me. But I wouldn't say CIS are one of the top two right now. I think obviously this weekend they've been in form, and I think they can be. I think at their best they definitely can, but I wouldn't say that off of just one good weekend yet. And to be fair, it's not just one good weekend, right? Some of these CIS players have been doing incredibly well over the course of the past year in competitive Fortnite, of course. But in terms of the top two regions, I would still probably give it to Germany and France. Definitely France. I think France is the best region in the EU, and honestly, they have so many advantages. Like we shouldn't feel bad about that. Like they just have so many advantages over the rest of EU, right? Like they have an actual stable practice system, you know, like they have way better infrastructure than we have in the rest of EU and arguably the rest of the world, right? France is just so ahead when it comes to esports, and so yeah, definitely no harm there, but I'd probably still give second to Germany until like something major happens. If we start to see like the CIS teams sort of ramp it up in the semis and then finals, then sure, I'll give it to them, but I'd still put, you know, I'd still put Germany in that conversation. I'd still put the UK in that conversation because I'm biased, even though we probably don't deserve it at the moment. Like, we only have, like, 4 or 5 elite players, in my opinion. So, yeah, you know, there's still conversation to be had. I wouldn't give it to CIS yet, but France, probably.
Teak, Seti and Kami managed to squeeze a qualification as well. What did you make of them considering they were favourites today?
Yeah, I think you get what you get out of Teak, Seti and Kami. These guys aren't gonna stomp a lobby. They're not gonna get a lot of elims, but they understand how to play the game better than the majority of teams in all of Fortnite. They see things, small, minute details that they do are just so crucial. You know, I was worried about them. Because Teak, Seti and Kami, they're gonna guarantee you a top 6 most games, right? But can they get you a top 3? Because with this point format, that's what's important, right? You need to be getting a top 3. Can they guarantee you a top 3 every game? I was questioning that. I did have questions about that. Especially because I wasn't sure how these lobbies would play out in terms of, you know, I thought maybe they'd get griefed mid-map because of Kami split. But no, it didn't affect them, right? With Kami split, they literally just got in vehicles and rotated insta every time. They avoided any possibilities of a grief. And they literally got like top 3, how many games? Let me count it. They got top 3, 1, 2, 3. They got top 3 in half the games. They got 5th once, 12th once, and then a stinker, 20th place once. But really good form from these guys. I was impressed. Even though they barely qualified, because what, they got 9th, right? Yeah, they got 9th. They were impressive. With this point format, it doesn't necessarily show. With this, like, in other point formats, like, their games, or their run-of games put you in top 3, right? But with the current point format, where they're not getting as many eliminations, and eliminations are valued more, like, it's difficult for them. So, all-round good stuff from them, though. All-round good stuff. I was impressed. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys. I'm glad that they secured their call. They would have been fine on series points anyway, realistically, I think. But good that they've secured that qualification now.
Playwell just missed the mark again today. Although they'll qualify on series points, are you concerned about them?
Yeah, Playwell, they're my trio. Shout out to Playwell, the Playwell trio. I love those guys. Crizzy, Stir6, Vettel. I love those guys. Really good. And I love the org. I love what they're doing, right? Signing the full trio is sick. I love the fact that I can just call them the Playwell trio, right? It's just so satisfying. I don't have to call them silly names like Bum and STD, right? Like, I don't have to do that. I wouldn't say I'm concerned, though. They won most of their off-spawn fights. 23rd, 11th, 33rd. Wow, they came dead last again. Bloody hell. I think that, oh yeah, we watched that fight off-spawn on the broadcast, actually. 7th, 3rd, 15th. I'm not concerned about them. I think If I was concerned about anything, I'm concerned about like what are they doing with drop spots? Like they land like hunters, then they land retail, then they land Misty sometimes. Like what are they doing off spawn? I want to know what they're doing off spawn. When I can have confidence and security in what they're doing off spawn, then I'll be fine. To be fair, they did win retail the majority of the time, right? I think it was like 4-2 in the end, but I'm not concerned. I do think they're a really good trio. I think their endgame fundamentals are really good. I think there's a couple things they need to sharpen up, need to work on. But ultimately, I'm not worried about those guys. I am not worried about those guys. I think they'll be fine. They're gonna make it to the semis once again through consistency anyway. And so ultimately, those boys will be fine. Those boys will be fine. A lot to learn, but definitely by no means. In bad form or anything. If anything, they're in good form, in my opinion.
So I guess, if you're not concerned about them, that's saying something.
Yeah, exactly. See, I know all. I am the wise one, the all-knowing one.
So, what are your thoughts on the Battle of Italy versus France at Stealthy?
Yeah, I tweeted that I think it's the dumbest thing ever because it's literally the dumbest thing ever. Before any of the French boys try and hate me, I love France. Allez les Blues. Oui, oui, aujourd'hui. But Shakos and that are getting absolutely romped. Like didn't Shakos come dead last today? Okay, he didn't come dead last. They came. They were lost for the majority of it, but well, they came 20th. Just give it a rest, like steal it, like just
Ouch.
give up, just give it a rest at this point, just, Steelix snagged, they've put in the work, they win there the majority of the time, and they it was just silly, man. In the final game, like, they literally, I don't even want to describe what they did in the final game, but if you watched it, you'll know what they did in the final game. It was just the dumbest shit ever. Like, it's just silly. The beef that's going on as well, like, after every single game, like, you have Steelix tweeting out Italy flags, like, you have Heatsy tweeting pizza emojis, like, it's just the dumbest thing. All the fans are, like, attacking each other in comment sections. Like, let's keep it civil, lads. Like, let's save our anger towards the NA boys, like, let's all as EU unite to shit on NA. Let's, be peaceful amongst each other. Ultimately though, I'm not a fan of it. I just think at this point, Shakos and that should just leave. But I know why they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave because they're able to qualify to every finals through it. So in that sense, with that theory, you should stay there really. But they're not doing too well in my opinion against Steelix and that. So at what cost? At what cost? We'll see though. We'll see what happens in the semis. Of course, we're probably going to see these guys again next week. So we're going to literally see the same battle again next week. But I'm all for it. I'm all for it. As long as it's not like silly like it got by the end of today. But yeah, not bad. Not bad by any means.
So outside of today's games, I'm sure everyone wants to know what are your thoughts on Mongraal and Mitr0.
Yes. Mongraal and Mitr0. What can I say? What is there to say? What is there to say that hasn't been said? I think the bottom line with these guys, it's hard for me to admit because, honestly, Mongraal is probably my favorite Fortnite player of all time. Like, I literally, bought some of the peripherals I had bought because of Mongraal, right? Like, I wanted to be like Mongraal as a player, obviously not in real life, like, as a player. The reality behind it with these guys is the game's evolving and they've not been able to evolve with it. They've fallen behind the evolution of the game. They don't know how to play with this current shotgun meta. They, after every single death, it feels like they're both blaming pump shotguns. They don't understand how to play mid game. They don't understand how to play end game unless they're monkeying high ground. They don't understand how to play without movement. You'd expect two players with as much Fortnite experience as Mongraal and Mitr0 to be able to IGL themselves through round one. I saw people saying, oh yeah, they just need an IGL. Like, you'd expect Mongraal and Mitr0 to be able to make it through round one of a FNCS without an IGL. Like, that's not some sort of high standard. Anybody that's considered a semi-decent top player should be able to make it through a round one opens without needing an IGL by any means. So, honestly, really disappointing stuff. I hope they can get together. Honestly, my honest opinion is these guys just need to do bad this season. They need to do bad this season, which they will. They're not going to qualify, in my opinion. I'll be honest, they're just not going to qualify. To qualify, they'd have to make it through round 1, 2, 3, 4 next week and get top 10. That's not going to happen. I'll be really dead honest with you. It's not going to happen. They need to do bad, and they need to have a reality check. Mongraal's been saying on stream non-stop he hates the game. I don't know. He keeps saying he hates the game, but he keeps saying he's going to grind, so I don't know where he's at. I don't even know anything about where Mitr0's at with this. But honestly, these guys need to get together because you don't like to see this, man. They're two legendary players, you know. It's just sad when you're seeing Destiny's Jesus place higher than Mongraal and Mitr0, you know. Like, that's not what you want to see, so hopefully they can sort it out. Hopefully, you know, they sort of have a reality check, an ego check, and next season they can come back better than ever. But at the current moment in time, it's just not good at all. Guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to give it a like. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on anything I've said in the comment section below. Shout out to Ria.
Oh, sorry, do you want me to say something?
This can't be asked anymore. Well, once again, like I said, if you enjoy it, be sure to give it a like, subscribe. I appreciate you guys all for listening. We will see you guys all next week. Bye.